It's no secret that MovieStarPlanet has been circling the drain for a good few years now. I've been playing since 2011, which is nearly 14 years ago and over half of my life, and I figured as I was such an old player that I'd seen it all. But whilst doing my research for this video over the course of a few months, I found a lot of things that I just never heard about. So here it is, my MSP1 Iceberg. And if you have no idea what MSP is, all you need to know is it's one of these online virtual worlds where you pretend to be a movie star. For our first topic, I'm going to break the rules and put one of the deeper entries right at the beginning because I think it's really important everyone hears about this. And after that, we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming. There's one last thing I have to say before we get started, and that's thank you so much for all of the support and the comments on my last video. If you could engage with this video in some way, whether that's giving it a like, leaving a comment, or if you want to be extra helpful sharing it, it would go a long ways in keeping this channel running. With all of that out of the way, it's time for our first topic. As of the time of recording, MSP has made no statement to the players on its use of AI. However, they have been giving interviews to the companies that they're working with, probably because they're offered a discount if they do this. I read the terms and conditions and it doesn't explicitly mention AI either. However, 3 weeks ago there was a case study published by Amazon, as MSP are now using AWS to host their servers. So here's how I think MSP is implementing AI already. The first thing being image moderation. Amazon has an AI called Recognition, which has a bunch of creepy features, but I think what MSP are implementing it for is to make sure that nothing inappropriate is being uploaded. The next things that they're using it for is obviously the AI-generated backgrounds and clothing. They're pretty obvious, they don't make much of an effort to hide it, and we can all tell that this is AI. Another way they're using AI right now is to handle the moderation and all of the user-generated reports. They're using a tool called Amanda that basically tracks everything every player does and puts it into a big database. They've been using Amanda since June 2024, and so anything that you type on MSP, any photo you upload, any reports that are made against you or reports that you make, they're all part of this file. The moderator tools before did allow this to happen, but on a smaller scale. Now it's automated. And this is probably why MSP is laggier than it's ever been before. The fact they're not being transparent and haven't updated their terms and conditions to reflect this is kind of evil. In 2015, a mysterious item was discovered in the MSP shop called Account Honey 2009-13. When some users bought it, they freaked out, claiming after they had purchased this moustache, they were logged out of their accounts, and when they logged back in, their clothes and statuses had changed. This sparked rumours that the item was linked to a hacker named Honey 2009. However, the truth is much simpler. The original person designing items and clothes for MSP was Honey Amy Jorgensen. It's likely that the item was just named after the year and the number of the item she was working on at the time, rather than anything sinister. So what about people's clothes changing colours? At the same time, there was a glitch that actually made this happen. Everything else was just lies. In old MSP, there was an arcade with various flash games. I found this video of someone playing them, and they ask, how does MSP get these games? Did they steal them? Well, judging by this button with a zebra on that links to an external site, I think MSP probably just paid this website to integrate their games, most of which were probably stolen. You didn't earn any fame from playing them, but you could leave comments and it was common for people to spread chain messages. Most of the games contained advertisements, and some of the games were VIP only, which was kind of weird considering you could just go and play these games for free anywhere else. The most memorable game for me was Pigs Can Fly, but there was also a game called Snail Bob 2, which everyone seems to hate. There's one that's more fondly remembered called Stop GMO, where you fight your way through a cave with actual guns. The arcade was retired in 2021 with the discontinuation of Flash Player, but you might still be able to find some of these games online, as long as they're not lost media. I'm sure many of you will remember the YouTube feature. You could create and share playlists and comment on them within MSP. It even featured a mini player so you could listen to music in-game, which everyone loved. It was also possible to add videos to artbooks. For the 3 people in the back who don't know about Charles, Cheat Engine, and Fiddler, these are all tools that are used to exploit MSP in different ways. These tools are different from single function tools that have been released over the years, and most of those are scams. Cheat Engine is the first tool that people ever used way back in 2010 to hack the game. As far as I can tell, the first ever exploit performed on MSP was a speed hack. This would just speed everything up in the game so you could claim those star coins and the poops in the chat room much easier, and it would let you watch movies quickly too. Because of MSP patching out these cheats, it's become increasingly difficult to use them, so nowadays a lot of people just pay others to do it for them on Discord. There is a bucket load of animations that have been removed by MSP without any comment. Instead of just removing animations entirely, MSP would quite often just replace them with a safer looking version. Aside from being violent, MSP has also removed them for being in breach of copyright, which how can you even copyright a dance move to begin with? And of course they've removed animations that can be used in inappropriate ways. However, the gory animations have never made a return via a rare week. The only time that they've ever made a return is when there was a casting game glitch, which I'm going to talk about later. If you happen to see any of these animations on MSP, it's more likely that they've been exploited in, rather than being bought at the time of release. MSP's art team are absolutely notorious for their plagiarism. For every single theme update, there is at least one instance of this happening, and it's gotten them into trouble before. They get copyright claimed and forced to remove or change the items. The most famous example of this being the Brat theme, which got changed to Rascal. They narrowly avoided a lawsuit here, and this must have scared them off of stealing from bigger names, because they've switched to just stealing from small creators instead. I know the EGL girlies are going to recognise these designs, which are blatant rip-offs of Angelic Pretty items. They used to save everything to a public Pinterest board so you could see exactly where they stole the designs from. I've got to get this one out the way. Anyone who's ever played MSP knows about the drip glitch, but I'm here to tell you that it is not a glitch, it is an intentional feature. Gifting clothes gives the recipient 10% of the item's star coin value in fame. For example, sending a drip top gives the receiving account 5,000 fame. It's most likely that MSP just overlooked this fact when they added the drip clothes into the game because they were so excited about getting people to spend money. And as far as I'm aware, nobody has ever been banned for exploiting this. Sometimes, if you pick an old animation that was released pre-Dragonbone, it can show a basic character model instead. These base models are what the devs use to build the animations in the game. But of course, because she's bald and old looking, everyone got terrified of it, hence the name Terrifying Movie Star Bug. And whilst we're here, there used to be a glitch that would let you duplicate animations in movies, meaning that everyone could use an animation even if they didn't own it. It's quite a well-known fact that MSP has been affiliated with Cartoon Network, and a lot of people believe Cartoon Network was to blame for the UI overhaul that we got in 2012. They were just a sponsor who allowed MSP to run ads on their TV network and help promote the game. And I say this purely because we would have way more information if they did own the game. There would be legal documents and things to back this up. And if you want to get tinfoily about it, the same section of the loading page where Cartoon Network was previously featured has also been used to display other sponsors like the Safer Internet Day. On screen now is the first ever known footage of the beta version of the game. I'm gonna just let this one play out for you because of course it's really interesting, and you can watch the entire thing on YouTube as well. If you pay close attention, you might notice the little microphone that's on the status bar, and this was for the voice chat feature which I'm gonna be talking about later. Hack by Lisa was a free MSP program that circulated in early 2016, and it allowed you to instantly reach level 6 and gain 5,000 star coins after entering your login details. Which does sound kinda dodgy, but this thing actually worked. People were banned for using this, and so we all just switched to using burner accounts. When staff saw this surge in new accounts, they realised what was going on and started issuing permabans. But for a very long time the hack remained functional, and you had about 10 minutes after you hacked the account before it got banned. Allegedly, the creator limited its features to evade detection, and it's rumoured that he was sued by MSP for 300,000 euros that his parents had to pay, but I would take this one with a grain of salt because I've not seen any proof of that. But the bigger mystery surrounding this is, why is it called Hack by Lisa? The most well-accepted theory is that she stole the hack and uploaded it as her own. I've also seen people say that she designed the icon for it, but it's a pretty basic design and I think Jack would have been able to do this himself, so I still have no idea. Drop your theories in the comments and maybe we can work this one out together. Back in 2021, which was a big year for MSP hacks, someone managed to change MSP's admin password and lock them out of their work account for an entire day. The game was left broken for days after, as MSP had to scrub the accounts and news pages, because they decided to put "You are a pirate" on the main screen. I'm gonna be dogging on MSP's security for this entire video because it is terrible, but one thing to note is that in addition to the password being really insecure, there was no whitelist, so anyone could try to log into the admin panel if they knew where to find it. A lot of the videos and information surrounding this hack have actually been removed from YouTube and other places online, and I think MSP tried to do a little bit of a cover-up as well. I'm gonna own up to it now, I was the one who made these drip trousers. As soon as the drip top came out, I started thinking of ways that I could use it to boost my YouTube channel. So I went into Photoshop and manufactured these, and then told everyone that I found them through data mining, and that they cost 100,000 star coins. I'm not really in the business of bullshitting anymore, but a lot of people believed me for no reason. And interestingly, we never got a pair of drip trousers after that, we got a pair of drip shorts instead. Despite everyone asking for it, MSP has never offered users the option to change their username. However, some people managed to trick MSP support into doing it for them, by deleting their account, immediately registering another account with the same username, and then claiming that they got hacked. Because MSP couldn't recover the original name, they would offer a change. Some people even went as far as pretending their username was offensive or contained personal information, and posed as their parents to help convince the support. MSP also just sometimes forced people to change their names too, and you got hit with a kind of creepy warning when you logged in. Surprisingly, MSP support did actually catch on to what was going on, and now they never offer username changes. At one point, the host of the casting game, Pixi kept performing these deleted gory animations. These animations appeared so frequently that MSP just had to remove the minigame entirely. Casting was reinstated shortly afterwards, and then removed entirely in early 2020. MSP Retro was an unofficial private server that ran all the way up until last week as of the time of recording. It was built off a 2011 version of the game, and there was quite an active player base. Unlike other private servers, you could actually play this one because the link was public, and it was the first private server to ever have a browser version. Unfortunately, there was a bunch of drama that basically caused the server to close down, and a lot of people were left out of pocket after having paid for VIP. If I had to describe MSP Retro, I'd say it was quite bare bones. The game was functional enough to be played, but there was always going to be some sort of glitch that come up during gameplay. I'd be here all day if I explained all of the drama and the backstory behind MSP Retro, but I do have another video on it if you want to watch that. Whoopsta was an affiliate marketing site linked to MSP, and it was active from November 2012 to spring 2013. It mainly offered Amazon products, and when someone made a purchase through Whoopsta, MSP earned a commission. And of course, they ran incentives where you could earn 15 to 25 star coins. The whole reason I mention it here is because in 2016, one of the MSP devs accidentally uploaded an unseen placeholder image to the game as a background, and it cost a whopping 1,234 star coins. So at this point, the iceberg started writing itself, because I went onto the UK MSP to try to get a screenshot of something, and I made the dire mistake of going into the chat lobby. And there she was, Pixi shooting up the entire place, and then she shot me. Naturally, I went to the forums to see what was going on, and nobody was really saying anything, but apparently she had been there doing that for 5 hours on a loop. There is never a dull day on MSP. There have been a bunch of MSP spin-off games released as mobile apps over the years. These games would link with your MSP account, and you could earn star coins and fame. And you can kinda see where I'm going with this. In typical MSP fashion, these games were hideously insecure, and the same day Boonie Bounce released, a few users immediately climbed to the top of the leaderboards. Low-level hackers would just make macros to make the game run for hours, but the more skilled ones would edit the game's files directly to send themselves massive amounts of star coins and fame. So allegedly, the same people who were responsible for the You Are a Pirate hack used Charles' proxy to swap the top 600 high scorers' genders, and even gave some of them rare skin and manga eyes. Surprisingly, MSP actually acknowledged this incident and worked with the affected users to reverse the changes. But there are still a bunch of accounts that never got fixed. And during this time, there were Discord tools available to change your avatar's gender if you wanted to. But when these tools got patched out, a bunch of people were left permanently swapped. On the topic of gender, I have two kind of forgotten glitches that I want to talk about. In 2014, I was big into The Sims 2, and I remembered this glitch where you could basically make any face part just huge. And I wanted to know if something similar could be carried out on MSP. So I went to the account login and randomized the avatar a bunch of times, and ended up with this. I regret changing the skin to pink on this account with Charles, but there is more evidence of this glitch on YouTube. And in 2018 there was another glitch. If you signed up for MSP through any of the spin-off games and selected the opposite gender, you would just be given a set of their eyes in the beauty clinic, which makes you look like this. Axe to the Head is an impossible ultra rare to obtain, as its SWF file was just straight up deleted from the game in 2012. This item was only available on the Polish server to begin with, and it's theorised that the gory retired items and animations were added into the game to try to appeal to a male demographic. Users who owned Axe to the Head had it taken from their inventory and replaced with the stick and head item. Frontpage accounts are special NPC accounts created by MSP staff for various purposes. So how this works is that if you win the competition, MSP will pretty much just copy and paste your avatar onto one of these Frontpage accounts. And of course, because the MSP hacking community leaves no stone unturned, Frontpage 6 and Frontpage Costume 14 have Discord tags in their status. You might actually recognise Frontpage Costume 8 because she's Holinova. In May 2018, a popular YouTuber called CaitlynXOX, alongside her friend Tropicals, replaced one of these competition winner Frontpage accounts with her own avatar. As you can see, she had rare items and pink glitch skin, which made it very noticeable to MSP staff. They also put Anonymous back on the front page, which was a W. And it was at this point we realised how Anonymous had gotten onto the front page to begin with. She was just way ahead of her time. As seen in Angel's Iceberg, if you zoom in really far on the old MSP town, you can spot people smoking cigarettes. This is probably just a random asset they threw in without noticing, and the average player would never see it anyway. But in the early days, you really didn't have to look this hard to find cigarettes. You could just buy one from the shop for 200 star coins. Wait, 200 star coins for one smoke is a ripoff. Anyway, MSP eventually removed it by turning it into a pencil, and it even made a comeback in future themes. In the game's files, there is a set of eyes called Male I1 SWF, and these never made their way into the beauty clinic. Looking at them, it's kind of easy to see why. And everyone knows about these manga eyes, which were also removed. These were possibly the first ever designs made for the avatars. There are also a few sets of eyes that have been removed from the shop, possibly because in 2013 they added makeup, which these weren't compatible with. Which leads me on to our next topic, Dragonbone. Dragonbone is a plugin used by devs to create smoother animations, and it started to be used around the time the beauty clinic was updated. It replaced older methods by using a bone-based system, making the animations more fluid. When Dragonbone was added, movie stars could blink, and later down the line, our avatars started breathing. And there was absolutely no need for that. I think the animation team were just doing too much there. Moderator 2 was a Polish server moderator who ended up getting her account locked. There was a rumour that she gave someone in her class VIP, which led to more speculation about her age. But the truth is that MSP mods are actually employees of the company, and they have to be adults. So I think this is nothing more than a rumour. She did, however, have the user AS98101 added as a boyfriend, which is really uncommon, and apparently they did talk. However, he came out and said the relationship was innocent, and it was nothing more than just filling a spot on the friends list. This same user went on to leak the RC MovieStarPlanet.com testing server, and so everyone assumed that the moderator had given him access. This server is sometimes known as Scary MSP, which is not to be confused with the Scary MSP private server. This server was open to anyone to sign up, and it had no whitelist. It's possible that this server was used in collaboration with the British government, because there are links to CEOP, which is pretty much just an online child safety organisation. I couldn't find any pictures from inside the server, but from what I'm told, there were deleted animations and behind the scenes images from MSP staff. Adrian is also known for creating the site Facestars, which is somewhat of a Facebook knockoff, but it was mainly geared towards MSP players. I'm pretty sure MSP themselves shut this one down. Cartoon rares were created during the game's development to test out how the clothing would interact with the player model, and some of these have even been brought back during Rare Week. These were definitely made in Microsoft Paint. And here is the collection of items that haven't been brought back through Rare Week. It's either the case that everyone just chooses to wear these in white, or you can't recolour them at all. However, because the item IDs are still in the game, you can spawn these pretty easily. Pump Planet was an early knockoff of MSP. And of course, because it says Pump Planet in the name, people just automatically assumed it's got something to do with Pumpkin, but this isn't the case. On screen now is a video I made all the way back in 2017, just comparing the differences. The game was never really going to overtake MSP because it was pretty much just a bunch of pictures and links. The most interesting thing you could do in the game is look at a JPEG of a car. A lot of old MSP players remember this site though, so I had to mention it. It used to be possible to use cheats to become level 500, but when you'd refresh the page or click on the Become VIP button, the level would just reset back to a measly 473. And on the topic of levels, there was a levels update. When MSP first launched, the highest level was 20. This got bumped up to 25, and then in January of 2014, they bumped it all the way up to level 101. This had the side effect of automatically boosting everyone's levels based on their fame. But what everyone's forgotten about is that for a short time after this update, fame was shown as a percentage instead of an exact number. And this is one of the rare occasions where MSP actually listened and turned it back because everyone hated it. The last thing I have to say about levels is that it's possible to go down in level because MSP can remove fame if they think you earned it unfairly.
With Sony as a partner, the Powerbabe PlayStation game is now being produced. The launch will
When I first saw the Powerbabe promotional video, I really thought it was some kind of parody or terrible comedy skit.
Boys, get lost.
But turns out this was an entire virtual world released in 2005 by
Pink Floor.
And as an interesting tidbit, Pink Floor was owned by Egmont, who published the MSP magazines. Other than that, the game's only connection to MSP is that it shared the same artist, which was Honey Amy Jorgensen. Instead of making movies in the game, you would literally attack the other players in these like bitchy cat fights until their energy ran out, with Powerbabe's slogan being,
It's possible to have a brain and a push-up bra at the same time.
and I think that sums it up pretty well. With the game mechanics basically encouraging you to laugh and gossip and slap the other players. I don't know, I kinda love it. I'm not sure how popular this game was, but there was plans for a TV show and a PS2 game, but both were scrapped. You can watch the pilot on YouTube, but I will warn you it's extremely cringy.
They called you a bimbo. Are you serious? I'm serious.
I'm not blonde.
But back onto MSP, the whole reason this is mentioned here is because they reused some of the assets from Powerbabe for MSP. A player named Fibi, who is also known as Vanessa, uploaded free custom clothing items directly to the official game servers. To avoid being immediately sued by MSP, she replaced old clothing items with her own designs. One of the standout pieces was the rainbow hair. which remains the only animated hair in the game. She also uploaded the Fibi and Goa hair, which was a tribute to her friend Goa31. Private servers are basically unofficial versions of the game, built on MSP code. We've seen this before with other games, most notably World of Warcraft. There's Club Penguin Rewritten and Panther off the top of my head. Up until literally this week, we had MSP Retro, which was the most popular private server, but there are also some lesser known ones. In addition to private servers, there are also clients for MSP. There is one called Pluto, which allows you to add a bunch of friends, change your profile picture. The difference with this and a private server is that this one actually interacts with the main MSP servers. Although if you do your research on Pluto, you will find a lot of bad stuff, so I wouldn't recommend installing this. There are only a handful of private servers that are publicly accessible, but a name that I saw come up a lot was Scary Planet. This is kind of just a rework of the old MSP with a kind of bizarre theme to it. I don't really know how else to describe it. There's a lot of controversy around this one. Apparently they stole code from another person trying to make a private server. Scary Planet has popped up with a bunch of different renditions over the years, and what I find interesting about the one on screen now is that the black and blue theme was actually one made by MSP and never added into the game, around 2011. The creators of Scary Planet are also behind the MSPS private server. This one seems a little bit more modern and a lot more fleshed out. It's definitely a very interesting concept to be able to play different versions of the game on one server. However, most of the English-speaking private server community don't trust the Scary Planet team, so a lot of people steer clear of it for that reason. From the game's launch in 2009 to 2011, you would be bombarded with annoying pop-ups to share your creations to Facebook. You'd get a little bit of star coins in return, and this got removed when they did the UI overhaul. I don't have much more to say about this one other than it's a really good advertising method. Black Lake was a Danish MSP band formed in 2009 by user Jolia. They weren't really a real band, but instead they made MSP music videos on YouTube. The members of Black Lake would all wear matching gothic outfits, and in addition to these music videos, they would also publish guides, and they were just generally helpful to the MSP players. All of this popularity earned them a lot of free VIP, but it also basically made them honorary moderators. This might just be the most wholesome story on the entire iceberg, but it's one that I didn't hear about because I never played on the Danish server. MSP's first prototype came about in 2007. Well, as far as we know anyway, because this is the earliest mock-up we've seen. The image comes from a presentation given in 2012 called Spilbar 9.0, which was a casual gaming conference held in Denmark, with this particular one being about how to market to women in gaming. Claus said that the original concept for MSP was gender neutral, and he found it difficult to market to males. He talks about how MSP suffered with feature creep that delayed its launch. The full interview transcripts can be hard to find, so I'm going to give a link to an archived version in the comments. Prior to the game's launch, all the way back in 2008, the team were already planning mobile apps. But what's lesser known is they were also considering a quote-unquote Nintendo version. At the time, the main systems were the DSi and the Wii. This was briefly mentioned at that games conference that I talked about earlier, and I thought that was the end of the story, until whilst I was researching for another topic, I stumbled across an old poll, asking players if they owned a Nintendo DS. This video came out in September of 2012, which made me realise two things. One, they were using these polls to conduct market research this whole time, and two, they were still considering this concept years later, which might mean that somewhere in MSP's internal servers, there is plans and mock-ups for a DS version. Since MSP has always been free to play, I don't think it would have been an actual port of MSP itself. Instead, we might have gotten an eShop download of one of the mobile spin-off games. If any leaks surface in the future, I want to be the first to know because I find this really fascinating. And because I don't want another drip trousers situation, this is very obviously a mock-up I've made in Photoshop. We all know that MSP originally launched as an educational game to help Danish teens learn English. But of course, most of us weren't around for that, and so we wouldn't know about the voice chat feature. The idea was that a teacher would give you a story or a prompt in Danish, and you would have to recreate it on MSP in English. There was also an option to voice chat in the chat rooms and private messages, as well as on your status. Apparently people use it as karaoke, or they were going to add a karaoke minigame, I'm not entirely sure. Given that this was around the age of Xbox 360 parties, the voice chat was removed for obvious reasons. In layman terms, the main SWF is the core flash file that loads MovieStarPlanet. Without it, you can't recreate a working version of that specific era of MSP. The 2012 main SWF appears to be completely lost. It could be recovered if someone had archived the game files back then, but so far nothing has surfaced online. The only 2012 main SWF we have is a Christmas version, which is much closer to the 2013 update anyway, and it doesn't have any of the assets that we actually want when we're trying to make a private server. We've had confirmation that somewhere online the file does exist, but it's impossible to track down and we'll never get it. So the only other thing is to just wait and see if someone uploads it. The Recolour tool was a scrapped official feature that would have allowed you to change the colour of items that you've already bought using diamonds. It was meant to release in 2024 and MSP has never given any official comment about this. There used to be a monthly MSP magazine published in Poland by Egmont. MSPcodes.com would buy bulk amounts of these magazines and then sell on the codes online. Whilst the website is now shut down, it does appear that they were a legitimate business because of the amount of scans that are on the website. The MSP magazine went out of print on October 4th, 2023, so it could just be that they're struggling to get copies of the magazine now, but if you know where to look, then they're really not that hard to come by. But whilst we're here on the topic of magazine codes, the Discord server Velocity somehow managed to get their hands on 200,000 of them and distributed them for free. As far as I can tell, these two sites have no connection at all. So I've been banging on about how bad MSP's security is for this entire video. So in their files, they have the usernames and then the passwords literally just there, not encrypted at all. This is the same thing that got Sony hacked back in 2014, and there are 3 things that point towards this being true. In old MSP, if you forgot your password, they wouldn't reset it, they would just email it to you, which again wouldn't be possible if the password was encrypted. There was a case of a predator who was identified because he made 400 different accounts with the same password, and again, if they were encrypted this wouldn't have happened, although it was useful in this case. And there are screenshots of the admin panel that show moderators can directly view the user's password, which should prove that they're not encrypted at all. Not only can they see your current password, but they can see all of the previous passwords you've had. And to top it all off, I have spoken with someone who's hacked MSP before, and they've confirmed to me they are just stored in plain text. Considering the amount of sensitive information like payment information, your address, and of course all of your chat logs, I would expect MSP to do a bit better with this, but who am I kidding, it's MSP. In old MSP, there were literal piles of poop in the chat rooms. You could clean them up to earn a single star coin. This feature was removed in 2012, which makes footage of it extremely difficult to come by. And I spent hours researching this because I was convinced that on some servers, the crap was literally called pile of crap. That belief likely came from the German MSP wiki, where it translates that way. Most players ignored the poop whilst recording, so finding anyone actually hovering over it was difficult. Still, I managed to locate one clip that translates to clean up the mess, and another from the UK server that says clean the poo. What infuriates me the most is that I managed to find a clip from the German server of someone cleaning up the poop. However, it lagged so badly that the text box never appeared. And short of digging through archived SWF files of German MSP, I decided to leave it there, because I was not about to lose sleep over a virtual crap. As I've covered in this video, cheats and exploits have been used by the high scorers for years to maintain their high scores. Velocity was a Discord server that allowed you to buy these exploits for real-world money. These tools put free-to-play players and even people who had spent on VIP at a huge disadvantage. They also limited the tools similarly to how Hack by Lisa only let you get to level 6, to evade detection by MSP staff. This server was responsible for a lot of big exploits, but it's now shut down. And you may remember that I mentioned the Pluto client. I'm not promoting the server in any way and I'm not affiliated with them, but here are some screenshots of the type of tools that they offer now. I wouldn't recommend using these or spending your money on it, it's kinda silly. But if you're wondering why MSP has been full of exploits as of late, this is probably why. You're almost at the end of the video, and I have a couple more juicy topics for us to cover. But first, I just wanted to say thank you for sticking out this long, and it really means a lot to me that you take the time to watch it. As I said in the beginning, I do rely on everyone's support to keep the channel going, so if you haven't already, please engage with the video in some way. I won't keep you any longer, so let's move on to the mod panel. Moderators on MSP have less permissions than an admin on the game. However, the mod controls are referred to as an admin button, and this appears on everyone's profile. From here, moderators can read your chats, see how much you've spent on MSP, what gifts you've given, what messages you've sent. Of course, they have the ability to unlock or lock people, but they can also recover deleted accounts. They can also force you to change your username and see every single password that you've ever used on MSP. The refresh button will log you out of your account and send you back to the MSP homepage. And they also added a reset school button, but I'm not sure that this is still in the game now. Next up, we have the item editor. What's interesting to note is there appears to be no option to remove an item. The upload button will probably open their PC's file manager and allow them to upload their SWFs from there. As far as I can tell, they're no longer using this version. And in a similar category, we have the testing servers, which have actually been accessed by players before. And through the testing servers, you can access this menu. This is referred to as the hidden shop, and it's basically just an upgraded version of the item editor that I just showed you, only there are way more options now, and you can add actual themes in. You can also find debugging tools on the test servers which allow devs to simulate different scenarios that may go down on MSP. Because there are so many options, I'm just going to rapid fire off the ones that I find interesting. Activity count could refer to any activity a player is making in the game, whether that's earning fame or spending star coins. Crash it obviously crashes the game and makes a log of that. Payment success will simulate someone buying VIP, just to make sure the process is working, which is obviously very important for them. Test fingerprint will basically probe your browser to see if you've been banned before. There is also the blacklist, which, if anyone has used Trolls before, you know the blacklist is very easy to obtain. And as a side note on the blacklist itself, they need to hold a very long list of words that can't be used on each server. And there's no human way that MSP did this on their own, and I think they bought these blacklists from someone else. And lastly, reload friends status probably has nothing to do with the status updates on people's profiles and actually controls whether people appear online or offline. And the last screenshot I have from the testing server is this child inspector panel, which does not refer to literal children, it just basically allows them to edit the UI and any items inside MSP. And now for our final topic, we have the admin controls. I know this is what you've all been waiting for. These are the admin controls from the old MSP, and as you can see they're quite basic, but they were later updated to include more options, and all of these are pretty easy to understand, so fortunately for me I don't need to go through them all. But one button that does stand out to me is the gift button. It brought back a memory for me of really old MSP where moderators used to give us gifts, but I don't think that's what this button does. I think this is a button that they use to give out the yearly birthday gift. And the last two screenshots I have are from the reports. This could also be part of a mod panel. And if you're wondering who Fierce CBZ is, that is the guy behind Scary Planet. And the last one is just a mini version of the admin panel as well. Thank you for watching until the end. I would have never been able to put this video together without help from the previous icebergs, the Reddit page, of course all of the wikis, and the MSP community we have here on YouTube. This video has taken me 8 whole months to put together, and it's been looming over me the entire year. I'm just really glad that it's done. But I did have to cut out a couple of topics, one of them being MSP merchandise. That's because I've bought a bunch of MSP merch and I'm waiting for it to come in the post. It's going to take a long time and it's been extremely difficult and not to mention expensive to get these items to me. However, it's all going to be worth it if I get to make the MSP merch video. I don't just want to be an MSP channel, but there is a lot more that I need to cover about this game. So I hope to see you again before the end of the year, if everything goes alright. And as always, until next time...
Ugh.